Today I want to share 5 portfolio tips with you, and these are actually inspired by an illustrator called Inma, who is working in Spain. Now every time I look at Inma's website, I look around and I think, yeah, this is perfect. This is exactly what I would recommend anybody does. I think it's an ideal portfolio website. It helps that Inma has a really memorable and expressive and bold style. You know, you go to the website and you just think, yeah, okay, I'm going to remember this style and this person. And because it's so bold, you know, it might not be right for every kind of client, but if you are the kind of client that likes this kind of style, you're going to remember it and you're going to bookmark it. And from the website, you're going to get a really good idea of what Inma can do and who she can do it for very quickly. So here's tip 1. Tell people exactly what you do and who you do it for at the top of your website in a short, well-considered paragraph. You know, it's going to say things like, I'm a freelance illustrator. Maybe it says also where you're from. Not that that matters necessarily for most projects. It's also going to say what kind of projects you work on. Maybe it's editorial, maybe it's publishing, maybe it's advertising or packaging, whatever it is. This is a really good opportunity to just let the client know all that key information up front before they invest any more time in looking at your website. It just means that they can go there and they can see exactly what they're going to get straight away by scanning that paragraph. And they're probably not even going to read it properly. They're just going to see those keywords and they'll be like, yeah, that's what I want. It's also a really good way to get some searchable keywords in there, which is going to be great for your website SEO. SEO is something I've not really talked about on this channel, but it's something I'm interested in, so maybe I'll do a video on that. Because it seems kind of complicated, but actually it's not really. If you want to be an expert in SEO, yeah, it's complicated, but there are some very basic things you can do to improve your website, and having more text on your website is one of those things. So having that paragraph at the top is a really good way to get some keywords in there. Another thing I'm seeing people doing really often is hiding away the best images in their portfolio behind thumbnails in projects or folders. I must have said this 1,000 times at this point, but when you hide away your best work in these project folders on your website, it means most people are never going to see them. Hiding your work away in folders is really doing you a disservice, because even if an art director is motivated to look at your work, they're not going to spend half an hour looking through every project, every image. So if the best work is not on your front page, they're just not going to see it. Let's say you've got a book, for example, and you put the cover on the front page as the thumbnail. That makes sense, right? That's the cover of the book. It's the cover of the project. But then what about all those beautiful spreads that you worked really hard on inside the book? Well, an art director might look on that project, but more than likely they won't, especially if you've got a lot of projects on your website. Get the best pieces out on the front page. So if you do have a book, maybe the cover's really great, and maybe you could pick 2 or 3 of the spreads from inside, maybe some spots, and also put those on the front page. Now, each of those images can still lead to like a project page where, you know, you've got everything. You've got all the sketches and you've got some photos of the real book. That's actually a really good way to make your portfolio look a lot fuller if you're in the early days of your career, because you've got this kind of structure of one thumbnail leading to many images in the project. But actually, you could take a few of those images from the project, put them on the thumbnail, on the front page, and each one of those can lead to the same project page. And let's talk about those project pages a little bit more. What are you putting in there? Are you just putting the images Are you writing anything about them? Are you showing some behind the scenes, maybe some of the sketches? Are you showing photos of the final product, or maybe screenshots from the website that they appear on? Instead of a bucket or a folder full of the images from the project, treat them like a case study. Make them interesting. Make them useful for a client that's thinking about hiring you. So you can write quite a lot about a project if you choose to. And again, this is going to be really useful for SEO. So you can share some of the sketches. You can show the process from start to finish. Basically, you can show different variations you were considering for a particular image. Now, you don't have to show everything, right? If you've got a book full of 80 different illustrations, we don't need to see that. But you could make a really interesting case study from choosing the best work there and then showing a bit of behind the scenes. You can write about it, you can write about your thought process, you can write about what you wanted to highlight with each image, what you had to consider, any restrictions you had to work with, what other ideas you had for the cover, for example. So you can write more about your work, definitely. And you can show it in context. If it's an editorial illustration, maybe you get a copy of that magazine and you take a photo of it on the page. But then maybe also you're looking at the website of the magazine and you get a screenshot there. Maybe you get a screenshot on your mobile, maybe you get a screenshot from your computer as well. It's just bits of visual interest that you can add in to let a potential new client know that you worked on a project with another real client, because that's going to make them trust you more. Here's another tip. Tip number 3, I think. I've lost count already. Use a photo of yourself. Put a photo of you in your studio or you working on your About page, because people like to see who they're going to be working with. You know, it's natural to want to see the person behind the work, and a lot of illustrators are a little bit hesitant to put their face out there, but actually it's a really good way to connect with real people, you know, especially in an age now where images can be computer generated. People like to see that they're working with a real person, and it's especially useful if a client can look at your photo and think, yeah, they look like they'd be fun to hang out with, you know. I think that all the time when I see people. I think, they look fun. I like the look of their studio. They've got good style. But maybe that's just me. Here's another thing, and I'm kind of reluctant to say this one because it might be too late for some of you, but use your own name. You want to get famous for your own name. If somebody types your name into Google, you want your website to appear first. Instead of the client trying to remember some sort of weird moniker that you've come up with for your art persona, try and get famous for your own name. You want them to meet you, learn your name, and then be able to type that into Google whenever they want to find your work and hire you. This doesn't apply if there's somebody who's way more famous than you that has the same name as you, or if you've got a really common name like I do. You know, if you Google me, all you get is like obituaries for Baptist preachers and things like that. But if you've got a unique name, if you're lucky enough to have a unique name, make the most of that, because it's memorable, and clients can just go, oh yeah, this was by Malika or Carolis or Inma. And then you can work on becoming the Inma Hortaz, not just a Inma Hortaz. You want people to say, who did this work? Inma Hortaz. The Inma Hortaz? That would be pretty cool, right? And the last tip here is just to make your contact details and your social links really obvious on your website. Don't hide them away in the footer or hide them away on the About page. Make them really prominent. So if a client does want to get in touch with you, They don't have to go searching around for it. They can just click a button and it's always there on your website, wherever they are. If they want to follow you, make it easy for them to do that. Make it easy for them to contact you. And yeah, I mean, I hope that requires no further explanation, to be honest. So I'll just recap the main points. Get a paragraph at the top of your website that says who you are, what you do, maybe where you're from. Get in some keywords that an art director can scan and think, okay, this is what I'm looking for. The next one is don't hide away your best work behind thumbnails in like project folders on your website. Get the good stuff out on the front page. So even if an art director is only on your website for 15 seconds, they get a really good sense of what you're capable of and they see the best stuff. You don't want them missing anything. And with those project folders, rather than just having them as a bucket of images, write more about your work. Write about the project, write about the process, your thought process, maybe share some behind the scenes stuff like sketches. And yeah, make them useful and interesting. Add a photo of yourself to your website because it will help clients connect with you as a person. If it's not too late, try and get well known for your own name, not some moniker that you've made up. And finally, make sure your contact details and your social links are obvious on your website. Don't make people search for them because they might not. All right, hope these are useful. Just need to run this by Inma and make sure she's fine with me sharing all these tips. See you next time.